Hey everyone. We've been working on several things for the YouTube channel. One of them is we're going to do a profile on Bob Barker soon, the legendary game show host who passed away, who actually lived right in Hollywood for forever. We used to see him a lot on the tour. And this is an autograph I got from him actually when I wrote him back in the 80s when I was writing people for autographs. I got Monty Hall and Ellen Corby and all these old guys that are gone now. And I'll be announcing this week as the arrangements for Mishu, who is actually right here. Mishu was interned at our shop on Santa Monica Boulevard, and we decided that he should go into a proper home. So we're making the arrangements to do that. And we're going to have a GoFundMe really soon that hopefully you'll all contribute to, and we can have a little ceremony for Mishu, the show business legend, the circus legend, the movie star legend. So we'll be doing that very soon. But in the meantime, this is the current goings on. These files that you see, this represents probably a 20th of the files that I have collected over the years. Since I lived in Chicago, I have saved so many articles, the obituaries of celebrities. When I lived in England, I collected a lot about Ruth Ellis, the last woman who was ever executed in London, or in England, out in London. And these are all tabloid articles, and it's sad. Troy is scanning them all in, but then I have to just get rid of them because we just can't keep them anymore. And I don't even know what I have. Once we opened up the shop, all these boxes of files went into storage cabinets, and it's doing no good to anybody. So Troy is scanning it, and we're getting rid of stuff. Some of the stuff I put up on eBay, and but the rest of it we're probably just going to shrug it down. And Bob Hoskins, Siegfried and Roy, Tiger Attack. Anyway, what I did find while I was going through these files is that I have pretty extensive files on particular people. And this week I found, there's Laurel and Hardy. Who's that? Martin Luther King Jr. This week I found the L file, and Michael Landon is in it. And I found all the files on Michael Landon. So what I figured I'd do for the heck of it, I'm not going to Malibu anytime soon, I'll take you on a Michael Landon journey with the files I've collected over the years about Michael Landon, and some photos I see too. They're going to be in no particular order. This is literally as I stuck them in, and I figured that'd be fun to go through because it's not just about his death, but it's about his career a little bit, and some of the things that happened to him after he died, and the funeral and stuff like that. So let's go into Michael Landon's life and death. Briefly about his life, but mostly about his death. So this is the Memorial People magazine edition. I saved just these when I do a lot of the shredding. I save these because I don't know. One day I thought they'd make good wallpaper for the shop and for our future shop. But this is just your basic Michael Landon retrospective. There he is with Dan Blocker and Lorne Greene. Interesting to note that Lorne Greene is actually about 20 yards buried from Michael Landon. But Michael Landon, according to some of these tabloid articles, was a questionable individual. Now, we know Allison Arngrim, who played Nellie Olson. She always had nice things to say about him. Said he swore. There he is as I Was a Teenage Werewolf in 1957. Said he liked to swear. He had a bit of a potty mouth, but otherwise had nice things to say about him. And this is the Malibu house, which you'll see the gates of where he dies. This is one of the tributes. So here are the files. Let's see. This one says what stars did before they made it. This is dated the 1988. Sweet smell of success. Before the sweet smell of success, he had to endure plenty of not so pleasant odors, including animal glue and body sweat, while holding down an array of odd jobs. He worked in a suit factory, a meat canning plant, and a ribbon factory. He washed cars, sold blankets, and had a back-breaking job on a loading dock. I was always hustling for a buck, recalled the TV superstar who was born in 1936, whose original name was Eugene Morris Orowitz in Forest Hills, New York. So worked in a suit factory, loading freight cars. Went to the School of Drama, so he was educated in. He was an athlete. I remember they did a Michael Landon TV movie, and it was a big part of the movie that he used to wet the bed, and his mother used to humiliate him. Used to, when he wet the bed, hang the sheets outside, the dirty, soiled sheets. That's the only thing I remember about that movie, but it was a thing. Now, he was diagnosed with cancer. I think one of his last appearances was on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. And he talked about getting coffee enemas. This was dated April 9th of 1991. See, this is from Chicago Sun-Times. That's when I lived in Chicago. Some of these they're pretty old. He'd been married 3 times, has 9 children. He was told of the cancer Friday after being hospitalized at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in L.A. What doctors initially thought was an ulcer, they discovered tumors in his liver and pancreas. I'll wait till the garbage trucks pass by, and I'll let you observe the ant bite that I got last night. We have these horrible ants, tiny little things, but God, they hurt when you get hit with them. When we started this video, the neighbor across the street started with his buzzsaw, so we held off, and now the garbage man is coming by, which is typical. Okay, we'll continue. Here's one of his obituaries, dated the 2nd, so he died on the 1st of July 1st, 1991. He only had cancer for 3 months, or he had it probably. He was only diagnosed for 3 months before he died, so he went pretty quickly. He said, I think Highway to Heaven helped me with that, since I played a dead guy anyway. That was one of his hit shows, Highway to Heaven. Survived by his 3rd wife, Cindy, and his 9 children, Mark, Josh, Cheryl, Michael Jr., Leslie Ann, Shauna, Lee, Christopher Bowe, Jennifer, and Sean. When he died, this is his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Back when they used to put nice signs on him instead of those stupid ribbons that looked like they'd been made by blind nuns. Terrible, like, heat glue gun ribbon things. Anyway, this is kind of nice. So he says he died Monday at the age of 54 after a 3-month battle with cancer. What is this one? November 1999. So this is 8 years after he died. Michael Landon's son shacks up with gay lover. We were made for each other. There. Insiders say Landon's son hid his sexual preference from his family for years and was afraid to reveal he was gay until 2 years ago. And Chris fell for his male lover 5 years ago. Okay, big news. Michael Landon, who's been dead for 8 years, had a gay son. There you are. What's this one say? Little House on the Prairie star Michael Landon cheated me. Kevin Hagen is battling terminal cancer and wants the world to know the truth about his greedy co-star. He played Doc Baker on Little House. I have been tormented by resentment toward Michael ever since the 2nd season of Little House, and I refuse to take that to my grave. The bitter feelings I have for Michael are a result of his personal greed and lack of generosity he showed me and some of the other actors on the show. He made millions on Little House, while the actors who helped make that series a hit for 8 seasons left with practically nothing to show for it. He admits he was grateful to Landon when he gave him the role of Hiram Baker in '74, even though he was hired as a freelancer. I feel like all the blood, sweat, and tears I shed are finally paying off, but those dreams were shattered by Michael. At the wrap party for its 2nd season, producer Landon pulled him aside and said the show couldn't afford to pay him a series contract, even though the other executives had promised him one. The worst part about it is Michael knew he had me between a rock and a hard place. I was a single father trying to raise his son. He was well aware that I didn't have the financial leverage to negotiate. So Kevin Hagen was angry. Oh, I see. This is the whole thing. He cheated him out of $1 million. I'm so disgusted by the money Michael cheated me out of that I've had to stop keeping track of it all. I'm sure it's well into the hundreds of thousands, and maybe even over $1 million. The money would come in handy. Well, he's very sad. And he's probably dead now. Sean Penn. Oh, no. Oh, that happened, didn't it? Sean Penn worried his brother is destroying himself. Happened. Fans of Michael Landon. Michael Landon, the shocking truth, his passion for porn, the boozing and drugs, his wild, jealous rages, secret plastic surgery. Demons that possessed the actor were exorcised from the film. Oh, I see. Fans of Michael Landon who saw the CBS biopic about his womanizing ways were stunned to discover the Highway to Heaven star was no angel. Obsessed with porn, used alcohol, pills, pot, and cocaine, flew into frenzied rages, and was so terrified of aging that he became a plastic surgery junkie. Well, it's good plastic surgery, I'll tell you that, if he was. He had good surgery done. This movie about divorce. Okay, Michael Jr. is the guy who created this movie, I guess. They did a biopic. I saw Michael watching X-rated videos, and his trailer reveals a colleague from the wholesome hit show Little House. He especially liked tapes of full-breasted blondes having sex together. And that was in his trailer when it reeked of pot. He was high as a kite. He also popped tranquilizers like candy. Lines of coke. But that wasn't his drug of choice. He liked to smoke grass. Betted many young actresses. Oh, this is very... He had kept secret apartments all over Hollywood for his trysts, says the colleague. Well, it's conceited. That's too bad. Little Joe. Which is one haunting secret. So there was I remember the TV movie, but I don't remember it being all about a divorce or anything like that. This was 1999. And the movie I remember was made when Michael Landon was alive. What does John Schneider say? Unflattering references to the actor leaving his wife Lynn for young Little House makeup artist Cindy Clerico, then 25. I took this role because I understood where Michael Landon was mentally and emotionally, says John, who divorced his former wife, Miss America Tawny Little. He dumped his perfectly sweet and wonderful life of nearly 20 years because he wanted the younger version. I was callous like that too. Tawny was a wonderful girl. So this is about really John Schneider. In the movie, Michael said to Lynn, I deserve you both. I've given you everything you could possibly want. I want this one thing. Why can't you give it to me? As I read the scene, I realized I've said that myself. All right. Michael Landon's deathbed confession. During his last days battling cancer, he begged for forgiveness from his daughter Cheryl for deserting her mom. When he was dying, my dad and I had some incredible conversations, Cheryl reveals in her new book, Michael Landon's Legacy. He said, I'm sorry that I brought the baggage into the relationships, and I know how I left your mother was wrong, and I have suffered for it. He walked out on his second wife back in 1982. When Landon wed Lynn, he was still looking for his big break. He had 3 adopted kids from his first marriage. When Landon became the star and moved to a posh Beverly Hills, we lost our essence. Watching his mother become increasingly obsessive with money and affecting an heir of royalty. So Michael Landon left his wife for a younger version. Look at that hair. Yeah, that's pretty incredible. He's never looked bad, you know? He really hasn't. He's a good-looking guy. Let's see. This one, sneak preview of the show he couldn't finish. Oh. The widow vows to... Is this a... I'm looking at this... This is a continued from page 6 thing, but sneak preview of the show he couldn't finish. He never gave up when he was at death's door, says the man who plays his dad in the Landon's final series. In fact, Landon was still planning production of the new show, Us, when he died. He had a contingency plan. If he wasn't well enough, he'd simply work behind the camera. Okay. Boy, that's not a very interesting article. Cindy's going to take the kids on special trips, and Michael wouldn't finish. She's so generous. First, they're all going to hop down to the Galapagos Islands. Michael really had his heart set on going there, so I'm going to go. Another trip in the works for Africa. Okay, so this is all the wonderful things that she's going to do now that Michael's dead. Good for her. There are a lot of Cindy, his wife, planning to do all these wonderful things. Here's another obituary from about him. Died at 54 after a short battle with cancer. This is one of the most interesting stories that often gets forgot. He had a stalker. And the stalker, this is in 1988, tried to get into the movie studio and shot and killed 2 security guards at Universal Studios to get to Michael Landon. I'll read this. Michael Landon was lucky to escape death when a mental patient stalking the actor shot his way into the wrong film studio. In the search for Landon, a crazed fan, Nathan Trupp, killed 5 people before a barrage of police bullets ended his bloody mission from God, quote unquote. Deputy Richard Dinsmore of the LA Sheriff's Department says Trupp, 42, believed that Landon was somewhere on the sprawling 420-acre Universal Studios. At 5:30 p.m. on December 1st, 1988, Trupp paid $17.95 for a general admission ticket and took the 2-hour Universal Studios tour, concealing his gun in his jacket. Along the way, he asked several employees if he could talk to Michael Landon. After being told Landon was not on the lot, Trupp walked off the tour tram and went to the guard shack at the entrance of Universal City compound. There he demanded a studio phone to speak with Landon. When the suspicious guard, Jerron Beeks, it looks like his name, 27, and Armando Torres, 18, refused, police say Trupp walked away, only to return a moment later. He pulled out his revolver and shot them both through the head. A sheriff deputy chased the suspect 2 blocks first in his patrol car and then on foot. Exchanging fire with Trupp, he finally wounded the gunman twice in the arm and once in the chest. Trupp underwent surgery and is now in stable condition. He's been booked on charges of murder and attempted murder. Police believe Trupp's bullet... So he only killed 2 people. I don't know. It sounded like he wrote... I read 5 up here. Killed 5 people, it says. But it sounds like he only did 2. And that's what I thought it was. Police believe Trupp's bloody hunt began with the killing of 3 people in Albuquerque. Okay, there's where the other 3 comes. They believe he turned up in Albuquerque because he connected the city to Landon's role as Cartwright's son, Little Joe, in the TV. Good Lord, this guy was... I wonder if he's still alive. 8 months later, 5 people were dead in his bloody wake. That's wild. So, 2 people for sure he killed at Universal Studios looking for Michael Landon. That's interesting. Michael Landon's amazing message from the grave: love your children and stop the abuse. I don't think we have to go any further into that one. He died by inches as Cindy fought his kids. Furious family feuds wrecked his final hours. I have a document that I'm going to read to you about this, and I'll get to that in a minute. Isn't that lovely? This was his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Now it costs $50,000 to get a star on the Walk of Fame. Isn't that lovely? They've done better with fixing them up lately because the price went up. Back when Michael Landon got his, it was probably $2,000-$3,000. Now it's $50,000, and that's what a lot of them do look like still. But they do try to keep them. That's the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce, the ones that moved out of Hollywood recently because they didn't like it, and that's them. And here's some photographs of his funeral filled with love and laughter. This is Hillside Cemetery in Hillside Memorial Park in Culver City. And Nancy and Ronald Reagan arrived. They immediately went to console Landon's widow. Stars at the Jewish service include Ernest Borgnine, Brian Keith, Merlin Olsen, and Landon's 2 Little House on the Prairie daughters, Melissa Gilbert and Melissa Sue Anderson. His first wife, Dodie, came to pay her respects, but the second wife, Lynn, didn't show up. Among the speakers was his attorney, who drew laughter when he said Michael had 9 dogs, and he loved those dogs with the possible exception of Lucy. Michael and Lucy, for some reason, never hit it off. Hilarity ensued. Melissa Gilbert, during the filming of the pilot, there was a scene where I had to bring some rabbits to be cleaned for supper. Michael knew I would be upset if I knew the rabbits were dead, so he told me they were just sleeping. Okay. So this is a nice picture of the ceremony. Johnny Carson didn't attend. Landon was a little... Oh, here. Allison Arngrim, Nellie Olson, this is what she said. Michael would say the C word and make disgusting jokes about how women smelled after sex. Who said this? Karen Grassel. It was so humiliating as a woman in a male-dominated industry. I was so accustomed to these put-downs, it never occurred to me to sharply rebuke him. Okay. Cheater. He was an evil tyrant, the way I see it. Oh, that's Melissa Sue Anderson. She's got issues. Most definitely got issues. And this is Michael Landon near, there was a nuclear meltdown near where they filmed it. 74 to 83 Little House was filmed 15 miles away from Santa Susana Field Laboratory that does exist in Simi Valley. The lab's nuclear reactor exploded in a partial meltdown in 59, and studies later found it had triggered a cancer epidemic, and Michael could have been one of those victims. Very interesting, and we know that's completely possible. So what I'm going to do here next, this is a copy of Michael Landon's death certificate, okay? And, July 1st, 1991, he died at 1:10 p.m. of pancreatic cancer. He was diagnosed 3 months ago. 5820 Bonsall Drive in Malibu. So here is a map of this house, okay? Michael Landon's home. This is the front of it. The media mob waiting outside. He died in the master bedroom here. The mortuary van moved to the back doors to remove the body, and the fence sawed off here. That's an important part of the story, I suppose. And here's a thing from Michael Landon's funeral. And I'm going to put these pictures out. Let's see if I can do this here. These are all the pictures I have. I remember my friend Dad Larry and I went to find Michael Landon's house. And also my friend Janet took some pictures too. Janet Brandis, my friend Jane's mom. But I remember when Dad Larry and I went and we couldn't see the house, so he actually stood up in my Jeep and took that picture. Okay, this is a lengthy article, but bear with. Michael's illness was very sudden and progressed quickly in early 1991. In the final weeks before his death, he decided to forego all treatment but painkillers, get a transfusion on Friday, which always made him feel better, and have the kids over one last time over the weekend before letting his cancer take its course. Transfusion company came to the house on Friday. Michael perked up and was excited about the prospect of seeing his kids the next day, all 9 of them. As for the kids, 2 were from his first marriage. Okay, we went through all of that. Saturday morning arrived. The kids came, laughed, played, and watched TV together with their father, having a grand time. Some spent the night. Sunday morning, however, Michael took a turn for the worse. He was in bed, feet swollen and looking bad. He joked about his feet looking like Homer Simpson's. Gradually, over the course of the day, he deteriorated, sleeping on and off. Later in the evening, he was semi-comatose and would wave his arms around only to fall back into unconsciousness. Everyone, including the medical people, stayed through the night until the next morning. Michael worsened still, but hung on. This would be a very long Monday. He was in very good shape physically, though desperately needed his white roots done. He had dyed hair for his last appearance on Johnny Carson just a short time before. He was in good physical shape that probably kept him alive so long. All the kids were in the upstairs bedroom on the floor, the bed and sofas, the entire morning. There was sort of a death watch. Finally, around 12:30 p.m. or so, one of the kids went to him and held his hand, saying something like, "Dad, it's time to move on." Miraculously, he awoke from the stupor, struggled to his elbows, and agreed. He also said that it was time for everyone to say goodbye. One by one, the kids hugged their dad, everyone crying and saying goodbye. Finally, it was Michael, Cindy, and his nurse who had been there since the day before. Michael said goodbye to him, and the nurse left Cindy alone with Michael. After about 15 minutes, Cindy was heard over the intercom to the nurse to come back upstairs. This is where the stories differ. Okay, so this is publicly what was said as opposed to what was really happening. Michael was still alive, but barely. When the nurse came upstairs, Michael in the death rattle breathing, which is scary to witness. No wonder Cindy called the nurse. And it continued for about 5 to 10 minutes before he took his last breath. A few minutes later, a stethoscope confirmed that his heart had stopped. Cindy asked that the time of death be from her watch, which was 1:10 p.m. She also asked for the time alone with Michael before the children came upstairs. The nurse honored that and didn't say anything to the children until later, since all eyes were on him and descending the staircase from the bedroom. Cindy wants to spend time alone with him. Not a lie, but not the whole truth. That's why people think that Michael died alone with his wife. Over the next half hour or so, while Cindy was with his corpse, the family milled around not knowing he was already dead. One of the little kids ran up the back staircase to Michael's bedroom, and the maid ran to catch him before he could see his father dead on the bed. She had discreetly seen Cindy with him for a few minutes earlier. Cindy finally walked down the staircase. The only reason she would leave Michael was because he'd passed away. The tears started. Word spread like wildfire through the house. The youngest daughter, Jennifer, ran outside, climbed to the top of the jungle gym, and started to scream. The older kids went outside to console her. Everything was done to try to make Michael look presentable. His eyes were only half closed, despite what happens in the movies. They don't always stay shut. His mouth open and looking rather, well, dead. Bluish, white, purplish pallor as the blood was settling down. It's rumored that rigor mortis had already began to set in his feet before he died as he was shutting down. The medical folks cleaned him up and put a clean silk pajamas on him and put some extra pillows under his head to close the jaw a bit so they didn't have a grand view of his mouth. There is huge controversy as to who told the lone reporter outside that Michael had died, but the pandemonium quickly ensued. This person fessed up at the time, but later recanted, realizing what a huge blunder it was. Plans had been made the day before to have Michael quietly removed from the property after he died, then the press told. Afterwards, they would all swarm at will. The fact that someone in the house told a lone reporter outside the front gate was definitely the wrong thing to do. It didn't take long for the helicopters and news vans to arrive. The mortuary was called 90 minutes after Michael's death and arrived about an hour after that. By this time, there was a circus outside with the press. They were to have come with a windowless van. Not the case. The van had windows on all sides. Everyone was going to have to work hard to make sure there were no photos of Michael Landon's body taken through the windows when it left the property. The kids were asked to stay in the family room downstairs behind closed doors while the removal was taking place. The mortuary folks brought the stretcher upstairs. The death stretcher was opened up, white sheets put on and more under the body holding onto the sheets. Michael's corpse was gently moved from the bed to the stretcher. The sheets were folded over him, and in a tender moment before covering his face, his wife gently kissed his forehead. The sheets covered. The velvet overlaid down, the straps tightened. The careful trek down the very narrow back staircase was underway. They nearly dropped the stretcher twice, getting him downstairs. To get him into the mortuary van unphotoed, the back lawn fence was sawed down. You can see that in the photo right there. The van pulled back around the French doors as the body placed inside. It was pandemonium as the van inched towards the front service gate. The combination was entered into the keypad, and the gates opened to show the media en masse. What a circus show. The van sped off and the gates closed. The kids finally emerged from the family room, more sobs, and one by one they left. It was said that the oldest child, Mark, had run to the store and missed the goodbyes since the vigil had started nearly 24 hours earlier. The medical people took away all the equipment, cleaned and removed all traces of a medical ordeal, and left, having been at the home for something like 45 hours straight since early Sunday morning. All the televisions in the house were turned on, showing the breaking news of Michael's death. There were guards at the mortuary to prevent looky-loos photographers of his mortal coil. He was cremated the next day. The funeral was shortly afterwards at Hillside. So that's the end of Michael Landon, as you can see. This is 30 years probably of clippings. Well, he died in 91 up to 98, so probably about 20 years of clippings. And soon this is going into the shred bin, but I thought you'd like to know a little bit more about the death of Michael Landon. I thank you for joining me on this Michael Landon journey. So thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for your attention. And until next time. You heard me.